I've been watching a lot of Minecraft 100-day videos lately, and I noticed that most of them follow a specific formula. They're usually either done in hardcore mode, or they're done in an altered or specific biome or location to make things more interesting. Now, don't misunderstand me. I think those videos are really cool. They inspire me to get on the game more, and they're nice to listen to in the background. However, I noticed that it was incredibly difficult to find videos of just regular Minecraft on normal mode, just playing the game for 100 days. Maybe that's because it's boring or people figured that's more Let's Player territory. I'm not really sure, but as they say, be the change you want to see. So here's my 100 days of regular Minecraft. Day 1, or 0 I suppose, I started my journey like most Minecrafters do. I punched trees, made a pickaxe, and quickly slaughtered 3 sheep to ensure I'd have the means for a bed. Afterwards, I got some stone tools, mined some coal, and then took a boat to a nearby village I'd spotted earlier. I harvested any beds and hay bales I could find, murdered their iron golem for some free iron, boated back across to the mainland, snagged some sugarcane, and then had my first night's sleep. Day 1, officially, I made furnaces and cooked up all of the meat I'd been collecting, had an annoying encounter with a skeleton, and then made my way down into the caves for diamonds. I quickly found a mine shaft and destroyed the poisonous spider spawner, and then found a minecart chest, which I looted before carrying on. I found my first diamond, and quickly after that I found a skeleton spawner, which I marked the coordinates for before going to find a relatively safe area where I could smelt up iron and get myself a shield, tools, and armor. Day 2, I finished making my gear and continued my hunt for diamonds, which went pretty well, for the most part, near deaths aside. I collected more diamonds, had a mild disagreement with an enderman, but we managed to sort out our differences once he realized I was right, and then after a bit more mining, I made my way to the surface. Day 3, I found a geyser, a new feature in Minecraft that I had never seen before. Since I didn't know what it was at the time or what it was for, I wrote the coordinates down and carried on. I made it to the spruce biome and found a village that I quickly raided for anything of value. After that, I decided I would use the village as a temporary base since the area around kind of covered everything I would need for the early game. Once I was moved in, I made some tools and armor out of the diamonds I collected before sleeping outside for the night. I don't really know why I slept outside, but whatever. Day 4 was mostly spent gathering and exploring. I found an azalea tree, so I marked the coordinates for it so that I could come get the blocks later, and then came across another village. I gathered all of the loot and bookshelves and then spent another night sleeping outside in the woods because apparently I'm allergic to houses. Day 5, I made it back and dropped off all of the goodies I'd collected and then headed out to kill more animals before sleeping once again outside. Seriously, why did I even bother stealing a villager's house? What am I doing? Day 6, I went exploring and started harvesting from sunken ships, which had pretty decent loot for early game. I then found another village and harvested it for all it's worth, and then slept on the beach. I'm not even surprised at this point. Day 7, I went to another sunken ship and found copper nautilus armor, which I didn't even know was a thing until now, and then went to another sunken ship. There was a shockingly large amount of these close by. I finally returned home, dropped off my stuff, smelted up some food, and made torches, and then headed down to the large cave entrance right in the village I'd taken over. I left my bed at the top as a respawn point before heading down in the hopes of finding more diamonds and other resources. It's at this point I feel I should tell you what exactly my goal is for this 100 days. After all, this is regular Minecraft, not hardcore, so it's not really about survival. It's also not a biome-specific world or modded with anything to make the game more interesting. So what is the goal? Well, for me, I had 3 goals when I decided to do this challenge. Goal 1, obtain Elytra. This one is pretty self-explanatory. I want to be able to find all of the different biomes and resources, and Elytra will make that task way easier. Goal 2, prepare as much as possible for my future base, which I don't plan to start whatsoever in this first 100 days. This first 100 days is all prep work. We're taking things slow. And finally, goal 3. Which I'm actually not going to share until the end of the video, so be sure to stick around if you're curious. With that, it was day 8. After mining ores for a while, I ended up finding a zombie spawner. I marked the cords and then looted it before going much deeper into the mines, which allowed me to finally find a diamond. Sadly, it was only 1. But luck would soon strike me again, as when I was mining up to the surface, I found a much larger vein. I ended up digging through to another layer of the cave and got distracted, continuing my mining mission, where I found more diamonds. After that, on day 9, I managed to make my way up to the surface for real without any problems. I made it home and crafted up the rest of the diamond armor, which was so stupid because I forgot to save any for an enchanting table, but no matter. I slept in another villager's house because I have psychological problems, and then it was day 10. On day 10, I went back into the caves and found some more diamonds to make up for my little mistake, but when I pillared back up to the surface... Yeah, I was not happy. I spent time off camera trying to find where I died, even looking back at old footage to try to find the location, but I couldn't ever find the spot I died, and I accepted that my stuff was long gone. I wasn't too upset about it. Most of what I had on me was easily replaced. All I really lost was my time and a few diamonds. Most of day 11 was wasted on this, and I once again slept outside. Day 12, I went back into the caves with my diamond armor and tools to redeem myself and found more diamonds to replace the one I'd lost. Once I had enough for the enchanting table, I quickly made my way back up to the surface and then headed for the village across the ocean where I knew there was a lava pool. On my way, I found a broken portal which I looted before sleeping outside again. I genuinely didn't realize how much I did this until editing this video. On day 13, I made it to the village and turned the lava into obsidian and gathered up 14 pieces so I'd have enough for a portal and enchanting table. I made the table and as many bookshelves as possible, which was only 5 at the time. I then made my nether portal and then finally slept in my actual house. It's a miracle. On day 14, I gathered all of the supplies I'd need for the nether, lit the portal, and headed in. I discovered I was in the worst possible biome possibly in the entire Minecraft game and prepared myself for the exhaustion this nether would cause me. I realized I was pretty high up, so I started digging down in hopes of finding an open area. And it worked! I was greeted with magma cubes and a lava ocean waiting for me. I made my way down to the lava ocean level and was shocked to find the nether fortress right there. This is the fastest I've found a nether fortress in years. I couldn't believe it. I managed to get inside and I found nether wart right away. I was terrified of losing it, so I gathered up some of the wart and decided to try and make my way back because when it comes to the nether, I'm not the best. Don't believe me? Here's a clip from a previous 100-day run I tried to do. Unfortunately, in my attempt to get back home with the nether wart, I was overwhelmed by magma cubes and fell into the lava. Again, it wasn't a massive loss or anything, but it was annoying that I'd have to try and get the wart all over again. I slept to day 15 and spent a bunch of time just making fresh gear before heading back into the nether to try again at getting the wart, and the exact same thing happened again. Day 16. I ran back into the nether with literally nothing on me, recovered the few pieces of gear that survived my burning to death last time, grabbed the nether wart, and this time I managed to make it back to the portal without trouble. I made fresh gear and then went to kill animals since my food sources were getting low, through no fault of my own. After that, to nobody's surprise, I slept outside. Day 17 rolled around and I gathered up some surface ores and did a bit of cooking before sleeping to day 18. Once I had a decent amount of food, I went back into the nether to explore the fortress properly. I didn't stay for long and basically just gathered up the chest loot and got a few rods before hurrying back to the overworld. On day 19, I started fishing to rack up XP and also hunt for enchanted books, and I quickly realized that solo fishing is boring. It's fun when you have a friend and you guys can fish together and announce what you catch and stuff, but man, on your own, it's a little depressing. I managed to catch a much better fishing rod and took a break to make an anvil on day 20, only to discover that it would cost 12 levels to combine the rods. I did end up paying the levels, but I had to think about it for a few minutes. On day 20, I went back down into the mines and got some redstone, diamonds, and various other resources. I slept down in the caves, and on day 21, I made it to another mine shaft. It might have been the same one from before, I'm not sure. And I found even more diamonds. I actually ran into what I believe is a trial chamber area, but I decided to just write the coordinates and save it for a later date since I don't have much experience with them, and I didn't feel like dying. On day 22, I made my way back to the surface after collecting a bunch of ores and then slaughtered a bunch of nearby cows. After that, I discovered another village and destroyed the bookshelves and took anything I deemed valuable. After another night of sleeping in the woods, it was day 23. I made it back home and did some more fishing before getting distracted and building up my enchanting table setup. On day 24, I was back to fishing for levels and books, and my first enchanted book proved to be a massive disappointment. Oh well. I finally reached level 30 on day 28 and got to work enchanting my tools. I got very lucky with the silk touch. I then decided the village's numbers were dwindling. I started terraforming the village area to make it a bit safer and also made an ugly box to trap the villagers in for now. Don't judge me, it's temporary. I tore down a bunch of other villager houses and then took a break on day 31 to do more fishing. On day 32, I had 30 levels again, so I enchanted another pickaxe, but sadly only got efficiency 4 on it. On day 33, I gathered up all of the wood I had and went to the villagers to start stick trading for levels. I then got sidetracked with terraforming and went to bed outside again, like a boss. And then, I'm gonna be honest, the next 10 days were spent cleaning up the village area, tearing down the houses, placing dirt, flattening things, chopping trees. It didn't exactly make for great content. But on day 43, I remembered I'm supposed to be making something interesting for you guys to watch, so I went back to the enchanting table and tried my luck at another pickaxe, and was given another efficiency 4 pick. This must have been my punishment for the last 10 days. On day 44, I set up a little chicken farm so that I could get an egg supply, and then spent time setting up a small wheat farm so I could make bread for the villagers. I threw bread at their faces and left them to do their thing, and then on day 46 I managed to fish enough to get back to level 30 to try again at another pickaxe. Still not fortune, but at least I got unbreaking this time. We're moving up in the world. On day 48, I traded with the villagers and got more levels, and this time I tried my luck with the sword. My luck with the sword was much better than with the pickaxe. And then on day 49, I got a sword with fire aspect 2, which I plan to combine with my looting sword later on. I got an axe with fortune 3 on it. Of course it gives me that on the axe and not the pickaxe, thanks game, but it was fine. On day 53, I got tired of enchanting and trading, so I went back and chopped down a bunch of trees with my new axe. I just need to feel like I accomplished something, okay? I did a bunch more trading on day 54 and got up to 33 levels so I could enchant twice. I got a silk touch shovel and a sword with sharpness 3 that I plan to combine with the other swords later. I finally went to the anvil and started combining some items. I put fortune 3 on a pickaxe because I was tired of trying to get it through the table, and then combined 2 of the swords I had to get rid of the Bane of Arthropods to enchant and replace it with sharpness. On day 55, I went to the nether and began farming blaze rods. It went smoothly with my looting 3 sword and fire resistance potions. Once I had the rods, I returned home and went out to an open field to hunt for endermen. I made a classic cobble rooftop to protect myself before remembering I'm not in 2012 and could use a boat like a grown-up, so I ran around looking for them myself. I only got 5 ender pearls that night, but it was better than nothing. On day 56, I started throwing Eyes of Ender to go looking for the stronghold. I actually got pretty lucky and found it only a small distance away from home. I tunneled down and I was there by day 57. The portal ended up being insanely close as well, so after I destroyed the silverfish spawner, I wandered around looking for any loot, specifically the library so I could take all the books for future villager trading with librarians. After I'd filled up my inventory, I headed home on day 58 and then went hunting that night for more ender pearls. On day 60, I made my way back to the portal and filled it up with the Eyes of Ender. I set up a chest in bed and had some things ready in case of an emergency, and then I stepped into the end. I was pretty happy with the spawn point and quickly got to work. I ran around and began to take out the end crystals one by one. Once I had the end crystals taken out, it was just a matter of time. I wailed on the dragon when it landed, fired at it when it was in the air, and eventually... After the dragon was dead, I gathered the XP and the egg and headed back to the overworld. On day 61, I dumped off all of my stuff and then I did some enchanting because I was planning to search for end cities and I didn't want to risk dying and letting all of those levels go to waste. By day 63, I'd used up my levels and was ready to go end busting. I made my way to the end portal and ender pearled into the distant end lands. I don't actually know what their official name is, but that's what I'm calling it. This would then prove to be an incredibly boring experience. After getting blessed with an easy nether fortress, I should have seen this coming. I wandered for ages, desperately hoping for an end city. I was definitely worried that even if I managed to find one, it would be without a ship. I finally spotted one by day 64 and bridged towards it. At this point, I was sweating. This is usually the part where I do something stupid and end up in the void. I haven't done solo end busting in ages either, or solo Minecraft for that matter, so to say I was nervous would be an understatement. I made my way inside and quickly found the ender chest that I knew would be there. My plan was to get the elytra, shove it in the ender chest, and then head home. I did spend some time killing shulkers since I had my looting sword on me and figured I might as well. The less trips I have to make back here, the better. I looted the ship and then I realized there was a second end city right next to the first one, and a second boat. I knew I couldn't pass up the chance to have 2 elytra, so I carefully made my way over to the second boat, snagged the elytra, and then rushed back inside the main building to get to the ender chest. With that, I could breathe easy, and start the long walk back to the teleporter. I got back to the overworld by day 66 and made my way back home. Once I got everything put away, I tried on my elytra for the first time, only to realize that the cape totally ruins it. What the heck is this? This is the ugliest design I've ever seen. Why did they get rid of the blue and just make the wings pancakes? I did go for a brief fly just because I hadn't used elytra in a while and I wanted to remember how awesome it is. It's totally awesome. I then spent a day or two chopping down trees because I wanted to have a clear path to the ocean. Afterwards, I started trying to get a mending villager and actually got one fairly easily. I don't know if it's the best price, but this took like 10 minutes tops. I put the mending on my elytra and then got my tools and stuff ready before flying to a mineshaft I'd spotted earlier. I needed rails for future projects, and also grabbed some other resources as well, before making it back to the surface. On day 72, I placed down all of my ores and mined them with Fortune 3. Sorry I couldn't give you the aesthetic side view, I was too lazy to play with camera mods, but if they're requested, maybe I'll add them for the 200-day video. I started the process of smelting down the ores and turning things into blocks to save on space. Afterwards, I went outside and discovered all of my chickens were murdered. I wasn't too torn up about it since I'd saved up the eggs, but I felt stupid for forgetting foxes were a thing that could happen. The next few days were spent gathering materials, and by day 79, I was ready to make a creeper farm for easy gunpowder. By day 82, I had it up and working. It wasn't the prettiest farm, but I could give it a nicer design at a future date. On day 83, I had a realization. We were nearing the 100 days, and since this 100 days didn't include building up anything particularly nice, I had nothing to show off in my thumbnail. Most people who do 100-day Minecraft videos go out of their way to make something aesthetic so that they have a photo to use to draw people in. But I didn't have that. So, what do? What could I do? The answer is deceit. I gathered up a bunch of plant materials, moss, different kinds of lighting, and got to work. I made a super cozy aesthetic little plant nook. It turned out actually better looking than I'd anticipated, but it wasn't complete. Something I noticed in a lot of thumbnails was that Minecrafters would usually have a companion by now in the form of a pet. I had an axolotl I'd gotten earlier, but I was worried about trying to keep it in one place and felt like it would be unnecessary hassle. So, I decided for the sake of views, I'd have to break my own Minecraft rule. I'd have to get a cat. You don't understand, I really hate cats, both in real life and in games. They aren't fun, they aren't cute, they aren't innocent, and you won't convince me otherwise. Cats are the super villains of the animal kingdom. But alas, most people love cats, and I knew having one in the thumbnail would give the illusion that I also like cats. So I grabbed this black cat that's been stuck on this hillside for the entire playthrough and dragged it over to my plant nook. I named it Thumbnail because that's all it's good for, and once everything was in place, I had a mini photo shoot, making sure to show off the elytra since that was my main goal for the 100 days. With my thumbnail secured, I flew to my creeper farm on day 85 and decided to AFK for a bit. I figured I'd spend the last 15 days trying to save up materials to make the 200-day video easier, and also so I'd be forced to focus more on the building aspect, which I was admittedly avoiding. On day 86, I tried to make a very small wool farm, failed miserably on my first attempt, redid it, and soon I had a working one on day 87. Afterwards, I started to clean up more of the village that had been here before I took over, just because it was bugging me to see it around, and on day 88, I did a flyby and figured out exactly where I'd be making my actual base in a future video. I marked the coordinates and then went back home to brew up some fire resistance potions in preparation for finding ancient debris. On day 89, the potions were finished and I made as many beds as I currently could, which sadly wasn't many, but it would have to do. Once I had all my supplies, I headed into the Nether to start searching. This would end up being pure torture. See, I forgot that I started in this stupid biome that makes the walls mostly basalt and not netherrack. I didn't want anything to slow the process, so I wandered for ages trying to find a way out of this biome. I wasted far too much time on this. Eventually I got the idea to go to the Nether Fortress because I thought I remembered it not being completely in the basalt biome. So I headed there and was able to finally get to just netherrack to begin the ancient debris hunt. And let me tell you, this was one of the worst ancient debris mining trips I've had in a long time. I was finding nothing. I found more ancient debris just by mining with the pickaxe than I did using the bed method. I was so annoyed. After all the hassle to get down to the right Y level and such too. I mined for a while, used up all the beds I had, and when I decided to head home, I had like 12 to 14 ancient debris to my name. But this would end up being the least of my problems. When I got out of the tunnels and planned to wander back, I realized I had no clue where I was, and that I did not write down the coordinates for my nether portal. Yep, pro gamer move there. I ended up having to look back through old footage just to see where I originally made the coordinates at the portal. It was a hassle, but I pulled through. I mined to the coordinates, which besides taking a long time went perfectly fine, and I was so happy when I saw my portal. I felt emotionally drained. I didn't even care about the ancient debris at that point. It's not like I could use it right away anyways. I had no netherite upgrade. A fact that I totally remembered before deciding to go find ancient debris, not something I remembered halfway through and then wanted to punch myself in the face for. By day 93, I was back in the overworld and trying to figure out how to spend my last 7 days. I spent a bit of time AFKing at my creeper farm, but that only lasted a day or so before I decided that there was one more farm I wanted to make before the 100 days were over. A sugarcane farm. I wanted to ensure that I'd be able to use my elytra the whole time during my 200-day video, so I figured it best to get these farms out of the way so it wasn't trouble for me later. I crafted up the materials and quickly got to work making the farm. I felt the pressure to get it done before the days were up, so I was going as quickly as I could. I've never really liked making automatic farms in Minecraft because I find redstone confusing, but the tutorial I found online was straightforward and I ran into no problems except for a lack of sugarcane to initially plant. I had to fly around and grab some, and I found a 4-block tall high sugarcane in the wild, which I'd never seen before. I didn't even know that could happen in Minecraft. Is this a glitch? Have they always naturally gone to 4 blocks high? I started questioning everything I knew about life, so I destroyed the sugarcane and carried on with my farm plans. I finished up making the sugarcane farm on day 96 and then decided I would spend the last few days collecting wood and using up all these iron axes I got from villager trading because it annoyed me that they were filling up my chests. I know, not the most riveting content, but I wanted to stock up on materials and I didn't want to do anything that would keep me away from my base area. I wanted to finish the 100 days at home. On day 99, I went down into the mines to harvest stone as well. I was pretty poor when it came to basic materials because of the farms I'd been making, so I mined stone for a while and then went back up to the surface just in time to sleep away the night and rain, and then it was day 100. I officially made it. Now, I thought about doing a little fly around in the area, but frankly, there just isn't much to see. We made a couple of simple farms, destroyed a village, cut down a forest, and that's about it. The only true mark of progress I have is my wings, but that's exactly what I wanted. I think it's amazing that there's people who can build up palaces and custom villages within 100 days, even in hardcore mode, and I thought about trying to do that myself, but that just felt wrong. I'm not a very aesthetic person or builder, nor am I great with redstone. My combat skills are average, and I don't think of myself as having any specific Minecraft skills despite having played this game for a good 14 years. But that's okay. I mentioned earlier that I had 3 goals for doing this 100 days challenge in regular Minecraft. The first was to get elytra. The second, prepare as many materials and farms as possible for my future base. And the third, take my time and enjoy the game. I know that last goal might sound silly or cheesy, but you have to understand something. I was getting sick of Minecraft. I felt like I'd seen everything it had to offer, and there was a lot of other factors too, but I began to really dislike a game that I used to play for easily 8 hours straight at a time. When the month turned June, I wanted to see if I could get my joy for the game back through a challenge like this. And you know what? I did. I had a blast making this video. Documenting my journey through 100 days was awesome. I got to see the progress I made while editing, and I'm really excited to see how it will look when I actually start building up the world. So, even if this video gets no views, or people think I don't do nearly enough within these 100 days for it to be content worthy, I don't regret it. I had fun, and I'm eager to play more. If you enjoyed this video, I humbly ask that you consider subscribing. This is my first proper video on this channel, and I'd love to be able to grow and have y'all come along for the journey. I also filled the description with all kinds of info about the world, like the seed, and about the video itself, like how many hours it took, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, feel free to check the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the 200-day video. Bye-bye!